The rain was a merciless roar, pounding the earth as if it meant to drown the world. At midnight, in the quiet coastal town of Dunmere, a frantic knock shattered the silence of Caleb's small cottage. He jolted awake, heart racing, the remnants of a dream slipping away. The knocks came again, urgent, desperate. Barefoot, he stumbled to the door, the cold floor biting his soles. When he opened it, there she stood, Nora, drenched to the bone, her thin dress clinging to her shivering frame, her face streaked with rain and tears. But her smile, fragile, radiant, heartbreaking, held him captive. "I didn't know where else to go," she whispered. Caleb hadn't seen Nora in 5 years. They'd been best friends in high school, inseparable dreamers who'd spent summers sketching on Dunmere's cliffs, planning a life of art and adventure. But life had other plans. Nora left for art school in the city, chasing her passion for painting, while Caleb stayed behind, tethered to his family's struggling bookstore. Letters dwindled, calls faded, and silence grew between them. Now, here she was, a ghost from his past, standing on his doorstep at midnight. He ushered her inside, the warmth of his cottage a stark contrast to the storm outside. "Nora, what happened?" he asked, grabbing a blanket from the couch and wrapping it around her trembling shoulders. Her tearful smile faltered, and she sank onto the floor, clutching the blanket like a lifeline. "It's all gone," she said, her voice breaking. "My gallery, my savings, my everything." She explained in halting bursts. Her art career had taken off briefly, a small gallery in the city showcasing her vibrant seascapes. But her business partner, Liam, had betrayed her, draining their shared account and disappearing with her best paintings. The gallery shut down, her reputation crumbled, and eviction followed. With nowhere else to turn, she'd driven through the storm back to Dunmere, to the only safe place she could remember, Caleb's door. Caleb listened, his heart aching. He remembered Nora's fire, her sketches that seemed to capture the soul of the sea. Seeing her so broken felt wrong, like a painting torn in half. "You're staying here," he said firmly. "As long as you need." Nora shook her head. "I can't burden you. I just needed to see a familiar face." "You're not a burden," he said, kneeling beside her. "You're Nora. You're home." The first challenge was immediate, Nora's pride. She'd always been fiercely independent, refusing help even when they were kids. Now, penniless and heartbroken, she resisted staying longer than a night. Caleb didn't push, but he made her tea, gave her his bed, and slept on the couch, determined to show her she wasn't alone. The next morning, he woke to find her sketching on a scrap of paper, her hands trembling but her lines steady. It was a rough outline of Dunmere's lighthouse, its beam cutting through a stormy sky. "You're still you," he said, nodding at the sketch. She laughed bitterly. "A failure, you mean?" "No," he said. "An artist." The second challenge was practical. Nora had nothing, no clothes, no money, no plan. Caleb's bookstore, the Page and Tide, was barely afloat, its shelves dusty and its customers few. Still, he scrounged enough to buy her a few essentials from the thrift store, a warm sweater, jeans, a sketchbook. He refused her protests, saying, "Consider it a loan. You'll pay me back with a painting someday." Days turned into weeks. Nora stayed, sleeping in Caleb's spare room, her presence filling the cottage with a strange, fragile hope. They fell into a rhythm, mornings at the bookstore, where Nora helped rearrange shelves and charmed the occasional customer, afternoons walking the cliffs, where she sketched and he told stories of Dunmere's history. But the third challenge loomed, Nora's fear of creating again. The betrayal had gutted her confidence. She'd start a sketch, then tear it up, muttering, "It's not good enough." Caleb saw her talent, unchanged, but her doubt was a wall he couldn't breach. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Caleb pulled out an old photo album. It was filled with their high school memories, Nora's sketches taped to the pages, Caleb's clumsy poetry scribbled beside them. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a drawing of two figures on a beach, hand in hand. "You drew us. You said we'd conquer the world." Nora's eyes welled up. "I was naive." "No," he said. "You were brave." That night, Nora painted for the first time since arriving. It was a small canvas, borrowed from Caleb's attic, depicting a stormy sea with a single boat, its sail tattered but unbroken. When she showed it to him, her hands shook. "It's not much," she said, "it's everything," he replied. The fourth challenge was external, the town's gossip. Dunmere was small, and Nora's return sparked whispers. Some remembered her as the girl who'd made it big and now saw her as a failure. Others speculated about her staying with Caleb, a single man running a failing bookstore. The rumors stung, especially when a customer at the bookstore snidely asked Nora, "So, you're back to mooch off Caleb?" She fled to the cliffs, humiliated, but Caleb followed. "Let them talk," he said. "They don't know you. They don't know us." "Us?" she asked, her voice soft. He blushed, realizing what he'd said. "I mean, you're not alone in this." Their bond deepened, a quiet rekindling of their old friendship, tinged with something new. Caleb had never admitted it in high school, but he'd loved Nora, her laugh, her courage, her art. Now, watching her rebuild, he felt that love stir again, though he kept it buried, afraid to scare her away. The fifth challenge was the biggest, Nora's past catching up. One rainy afternoon, a letter arrived from the city. Liam, her former partner, had been caught trying to sell her stolen paintings. The authorities needed her to testify, but it meant returning to the city, facing the wreckage of her old life. Nora panicked, convinced she'd crumble under the pressure. "I can't do it," she said, pacing the cottage. "I'm not strong enough." Caleb took her hands. "You drove through a storm to get here. You painted again. You're stronger than you know." She looked at him, her tearful smile returning. "Why do you believe in me?" "Because I always have," he said, and Nora went to the city, and Caleb went with her. The trial was grueling, Liam's smug face a reminder of her betrayal. But she stood tall, her voice steady as she recounted his theft. The court ruled in her favor, returning her paintings and a small settlement. More importantly, it gave her closure. Back in Dunmere, she used the settlement to rent a tiny studio above the bookstore, determined to stay and rebuild. The final challenge was internal, Nora's fear of dreaming again. Caleb helped her transform the bookstore's backroom into a gallery space, displaying her new paintings alongside local artists' work. The opening night was a risk. Would anyone come? But Dunmere showed up, drawn by Nora's raw, emotional art and Caleb's quiet faith in her. The gossip faded, replaced by admiration. Nora sold 3 paintings that night, her smile no longer tearful but radiant. As winter turned to spring, Nora and Caleb grew closer. One evening, on the cliffs, she gave him a painting, The Lighthouse, its beam now joined by 2 figures holding hands. "This is us," she said. "Thank you for being my light." Caleb's heart raced. "I love you, Nora," he blurted, then froze, afraid he'd overstepped. She smiled, stepping closer. "I love you too." Their kiss was soft, tentative, like the first brushstroke on a canvas. The storm had passed, and they stood together, ready to paint a new future. Years later, the Page and Tide was a thriving hub, part bookstore, part gallery. Nora's art hung on the walls, each piece a testament to resilience. Caleb wrote poetry again, inspired by her. They faced new challenges. Money was tight, life was messy, but they faced them together, their love a steady beacon. The story doesn't end with perfection. storms would come again. But Nora and Caleb learned to weather them, knowing that kindness, courage, and love could light even the darkest nights. Call to action. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, please leave a comment below sharing what moved you most. Subscribe to my channel, Be Kind Always, for more stories of hope and resilience. Let's spread kindness together. Hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs a little light today.